Am I the antagonist for not wanting to lend my parents money? My 23 years old female parents, 42 years old female and 43 years old male, are very financially irresponsible, and they use up all their money all the time. When I was younger, they would always scare my brother and I, saying that we weren't going to be able to pay rent and stuff like that, but they always managed to solve it. Once I grew up and started working, they would ask me for $100 here and there and always pay me back. Once I got married to my husband, 24 years old male, they started asking us for like $500 or more dollars every other week, always paying us back, but they can take up to 10 months to pay us back. Fast forward 5 months ago, they asked me to ask my in-laws to lend them $25,000 because they were very behind with rent and paychecks for their company. I was so embarrassed to even ask, but I thought it was for a good and important cause. I felt so tricked afterwards because a few days after they got the money, they went on vacation to the east. We live on the west. My husband's family is rich, but I don't want them to think less of me or my family, or to think that I'm taking advantage of them. They haven't paid them back a penny yet. With everything we've lent them, they owe my husband and me over $4,000 and my in-laws over $25,000. Last week they asked me for $10,000 more, and I told them we didn't have that much. They told me to ask my in-laws and they said no. I've told them I don't want to know about their financial problems anymore because, to be honest, it seems like they spend so much they are asking for it. They go on vacation once a month or every 2 months tops. They keep reminding me how my husband and I make more money than them and how they moved to this country to give my brother and me a better life. I feel so bad not helping them, but I am just tired of lending them money so often. They called me an hour ago asking for $200 when I've told them I don't want to know about their financial problems, and they are in Vegas right now. My husband is really tired of lending them money and seeing them be so irresponsible with it. He has told me he doesn't want to do it anymore. I don't want to fight with my husband, especially about something that I agree on. Would I be the ATO hole for not lending them money? How can I nicely tell them that I don't want to lend them any more money? Like ever again. It seems like every single time my dad calls me, it's to ask me for money. I already knew when he was calling what it was about. Dear Alpap, it sounds like you're stuck in a bit of a financial pickle with your parents. While it's understandable to want to support your family, it's also important to prioritize your own financial well-being. Lending money should not come at the cost of your own financial stability or your relationship with your husband. It seems like your parents have a bit of a spending habit, and it's fair for you to feel drained from constantly bailing them out. It's okay to set boundaries and say no to further financial assistance. You should have an honest conversation with your parents about your decision and express your concerns about the constant requests for money. Humor may be a good way to soften the blow while delivering a serious message. You could try something like, "Hey mom and dad, I'd love to help you out with $200 for Vegas, but I can only spare it if you promise not to spend it all in one place." Literally. This way, you're setting a boundary in a lighthearted manner. Remember, it's essential to take care of your own financial well-being first before supporting others. You're not the a-hole for wanting to stop lending money, even to family. It's perfectly okay to prioritize yourself and your husband in this situation. Good luck navigating this tricky situation. Am I the antagonist for not forgiving my stepchild quickly? I have been married to Rob for 5 years. He has 2 children, Emma and Mike, 14 years old female and 16 years old male. I'm black and they're white. 2 years ago, they lost their mother and started staying with us full-time. Before it was weekends. My relationship with Emma is great. We are not mother-daughter, but I love her and we have great times. With Mike, he made it very clear that I would never be his mother or stepmother, just his father's wife. We're not close and we only talk the basics, but at least he respects me. This week my husband was busy at work and I had to pick up Emma and Mike from extracurricular activities. Thursday, I went to pick up Mike and for the first time, I found a spot close to the exit. When he saw me, he turned to his friends and said quietly, "I'm going, my maid has arrived," he said quietly. "But I have excellent hearing, a fact that everyone at home knows except him because we don't talk." When he came in, I asked him why he called me maid, and he replied, "I'm not going to call you stepmother or mother," and I continued, "But why your maid, and not anything else?" He was quiet. Later, I told Rob what happened and he talked to Mike about how wrong it was, how racist it was, and how insulted I felt. Mike immediately came to apologize, saying he hadn't thought that way and didn't mean to be racist. I said okay, but that attitude had hurt me because it's one thing not to accept me in the family, it's another thing to call me a maid. He's been trying to compensate by talking to me more and trying to help me with some things, but I'm keeping my distance. Today Rob talked to me saying that I was being too hard on Mike and that he's trying everything he can to make things right and is genuinely sorry, but I'm ignoring him. I replied that him being sorry for what he did doesn't change what happened and how humiliated I felt upon hearing that. I'm not ready to forgive for now, and it serves as a lesson for him. Hurting people has consequences. Rob said I'm being harsh and it could be a moment of rapprochement between us, learning, and I'm wasting it. Am I the a-hole? It sounds like you are definitely not the asshole in this situation. Mike's words were hurtful and disrespectful, regardless of his intentions. It's understandable that you are feeling hurt and taking some time to process your feelings. It's important for Mike to understand the impact of his words and actions, and hopefully, this experience will help him grow and learn to be more considerate in the future. Keep the communication open with your husband, and hopefully, with time, things will improve between you and Mike. Remember, forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. Am I the antagonist for not immediately telling my sister our grandmother died? Bear with me, because I would normally call myself the asshole in this situation, but it's not that straightforward. 2 years ago, my grandmother was nearing the end. She was 99 years old and very ill in a nursing home. My sister was estranged from the family, but we had started to build a tentative relationship and would text each other occasionally. She knew Grandma was in a home and poorly but never visited her herself. On October 31st, it was clear Grandma wasn't going to get better at this point, and during the night, she quietly passed away. My mom texted me in the morning of the 1st of November. It was very early in the morning. I had to take my kids to school, and I had work that morning, so I decided to phone my sister when I got back from work that afternoon so we could talk about things. Unfortunately, after my morning clients, I was asked to cover some afternoon clients, so I was later home than I had planned. I'd barely gotten in from work when I got a call that my daughter, 12 years old, had been hit by a car and dragged down the road and was injured, so I had to go to her and wait for the ambulance. She clearly had a broken leg, so I had to go with her to the hospital, etc., etc. And it turned out she broke both her bones in her leg just above her ankle. We got back from the hospital at 1 in the morning. She was in terrible pain and was scared to go upstairs, so we spent an uncomfortable night downstairs. I had completely forgotten about my grandma and calling my sister at that point. The next morning was painful for all of us. Nobody got much sleep, and I decided to call into work so I could take care of my daughter. I looked at my phone and noticed I had an angry text message from my sister because she had found out about Grandma from someone else. I messaged back apologizing and saying I meant to call her. She messaged back saying she couldn't trust me and proceeded to block me on everything before I had the chance to call her to explain what had happened with my daughter and why I had forgotten to call before. We haven't been in touch since. The situation with my daughter was my priority at that moment, and I genuinely forgot to call my sister because of the stress and trauma at the time. There were other family members who could and did let my sister know what happened, but she chose to hold me personally responsible for her finding out a day after the fact. Am I the asshole? Oh dear, what a wild ride. First of all, my condolences for the loss of your grandmother, and I hope your daughter is recovering well. Your sister does seem to have seen red in this situation, but let's not jump to conclusions. It seems like a case of unfortunate timing and miscommunication, rather than you intentionally being the asshole. Life can be a roller coaster sometimes, and it's understandable that you were caught up in the whirlwind of dealing with your daughter's accident. Maybe send your sister a message pigeon or carrier bat to explain the chaotic circumstances that led to the delay in contacting her. Hopefully, she'll understand that you weren't trying to be a grumpy bear and give you a second chance at explaining things. Keep on juggling life's surprises, and remember that hindsight is a wonderfully clear-sighted beast. Am I the antagonist for taking my insulin in public around kids? So I, 28 years old female, took my niece to the playground today and sat off to the side to watch her play with the other kids. I got a notification on my phone that I had a high blood sugar reading, so I took my insulin pen out to take some. My niece saw this and ran over to me because she likes to be my dawa doctor. Dawa means medicine in our native language. I was wearing a hoodie, so I lifted it a tiny bit to show a small patch of skin and inserted the needle. The other kids saw this and ran over to see what we were doing, so my niece started pretty much narrating what she was doing. First you turn it 3 times and then you press the button. She told them my aunt has diabetic. Then she takes it out and covers the pen. She doesn't ever come near the actual needle. I cover it. I answered the kids' questions about the illness and why I had to take it, and this mom stomps over to me and starts yelling because I exposed myself in front of her kid. I tried to explain that they didn't see anything, and it was a very tiny part of my stomach, but she told me I needed to take it in the bathroom then. She said I was endangering children by letting them get close to a needle. My niece started crying because she gets scared when people yell, so I got pissed off and told her if she was paying attention to her child, then she could have kept him from running over to a stranger. I also said that her parenting was not my problem, which I think may have been too far because her kid was right there. She also brought up last time I was there when I got my niece popcorn and she shared it with the other kids, and she said I overstepped and can't just give random kids food. I told her I went to all the parents of the kids she was sharing with and made sure it was okay with them and it was none of her business. Her kid also then started crying and I felt really bad. She called me a bitch and walked away. I told my brother and sister-in-law, and my brother said I probably should have let it go and just took my niece and left. My sister-in-law said I was in the right and the lady deserved it. Am I the antagonist? I distracted my niece with a gumball and she forgot all about it, so she's fine. In a situation like this, it's important to keep a sense of humor while also addressing the seriousness of the issue. Your niece's innocence and willingness to be your dawa doctor is endearing, and it's great that she's learning about health and medicine in a positive way. However, the other parents may not have seen the situation in quite the same light, leading to a bit of a playground showdown. While it's understandable that the mom may have been concerned about her child's safety, it seems like things escalated quickly. Your explanation that the kids didn't actually see anything and that you covered the needle should have been sufficient. It's unfortunate that the situation got heated, but it's clear that you were just trying to manage your health discreetly. As for the popcorn incident, it's always good to check with other parents before sharing food with their kids, so you were proactive in that regard. The parent's reaction may have been overly sensitive, but it's also important to be mindful of different parenting styles and boundaries. In the end, it's great that you were able to distract your niece with a gumball and move on from the conflict. Your brother and sister-in-law's differing opinions show that this situation can be viewed from multiple perspectives. Navigating social interactions can be tricky, especially when it comes to children and health-related matters. It might be helpful to consider how to handle similar situations in the future, but ultimately you were just trying to look out for your health while supervising your niece at the playground. Would I be the antagonist if I kick my family out of the house? My mother passed away in May of 2023. Since then, I have invested a lot of money into the house that my mother, father, and siblings lived in to renovate in order to make a profit. This was agreed upon at that time. Upon the sale of the home, the proceeds will be divided between me and my two brothers. I am the youngest of the three, and the two brothers have lived there sans expenses for 10 years. They are 56 and 50. My sister-in-law also has lived there for longer than I can remember. Once my mother died, renovations began, and I've taken every stance with trying to get them out so the house can be listed. The house has a reverse mortgage on it, so there is a tight timeline to repay the loan, and we are down to about 5 weeks until it goes into foreclosure, and in turn I will lose all of the money I put into it. This includes all of the life insurance I received and my retirement. About a month after my mother died, my adult niece, unknowingly, moved into the house. Her youngest child burned down the house of her baby's daddy's parents, 2 kids, and it took a while for me to realize she was living there and not just visiting. I've managed to get one brother out as of 2 days ago, but I was told today, by sister-in-law, that she and her daughter will be living there when the house is listed. To say they live like roaches would be a compliment to how they actually live. I've spent every last dime I had, and it's too late to even file for eviction because it will be past the bank's deadline to sell the house by the time they'd be formally evicted. I've had to continue paying property insurance, utilities, and property taxes for the duration for the past, approximately 11 months, plus 20 years prior to my parents' deaths. Would I be the asshole if I just lose my stuff and enforce that they all leave the premises immediately? I just can't fathom being taken advantage of anymore, and I'm out of money. At least if the house does sell in the final month, there is a profit to be made. I'll pay myself back first and then divide the proceeds accordingly and at my discretion. I am the executor. In the past several days, I've been informed that they've had to buy things for the house, paint specifically, and gave them cash for it, among other things. Before I lose my temper, I want to know if I am overreacting. Am I the asshole? I am terribly sorry for your loss of your mother, and it seems like you are in a tough situation concerning the house. It must be frustrating to be dealing with all these challenges on top of the grief you are experiencing. However, maintaining a level of humor, I must say, it looks like you are starring in your own reality TV show called The Real House Hustlers of your location. But on a serious note, it is understandable that you would want to protect your investment and ensure that the house is listed in time to avoid foreclosure. It appears that the situation has become quite tense and you are feeling overwhelmed by the financial burden and the behavior of your siblings and niece. Given the circumstances you have described, it does not seem like you are overreacting by wanting them to leave the premises immediately. You have a responsibility as the executor to ensure that the house is sold to repay the reverse mortgage and to divide the proceeds according to the agreement made with your brothers. It is important to prioritize your financial well-being and protect your interests in this situation. It might be helpful to seek legal advice to understand your rights as the executor and how to proceed in enforcing their eviction if necessary. Communicating openly and clearly with your siblings and niece about the situation and your intentions may also help in resolving the issue. In conclusion, it is crucial to take care of yourself and your financial stability during this challenging time. You are not the asshole for wanting to protect your investment and ensure the house is sold in time to avoid further financial loss. Am I the antagonist for expecting my sister to follow up on her end of our deal? I am 25 years old and am living at home for the time being due to finishing up fieldwork. I work quite a bit, and I have a dog that I adore that lives with me and my parents and sister. Now down to the situation at hand. Several months ago, I came into some money legally, and my sister, 14 years old, was begging my parents for a new phone because hers wouldn't receive calls and had a broken screen. I needed some help taking care of my dog due to exhaustion from having to spend extra time at fieldwork and some health issues recently, so I decided since I had the money that I could buy her a phone if she promised to help me feed him dinner and walk him at least 2 times a week. She promised she would do all of that, and my parents agreed to let me buy her a phone under these circumstances. Flash forward, I bought her the phone and she did a decent job keeping up with feeding him on time but refused to walk him. She walked him probably once in an 8-week period. I have tried to be lenient and ask her to do it on weekends when I'm busy cleaning our part of the house and helping my parents and planning for my fieldwork patients, but she continuously says no, because she's too tired. I've tried to avoid asking her to do it during the week because she runs track and her practices often run late, so I'm understanding about her not doing it then. On weekends though, I feel she is obligated to do it since I spent $350 on a phone for her under the pretense that she would do this for me. Skip to today. I asked her to walk him and it's a beautiful day out. I wanted to walk him, but due to lady problems have not been feeling well and have been trying to get more things done around the house and ready for Monday back at fieldwork. She said no because she had to do yard work. I got upset and asked my parents why they refused to make her hold up her end of the deal. They got upset with me and treated me like I was awful for trying to get her to do my job and kept telling me to drop the subject. My mother went as far as to say she'll just pay me back once she gets her check. I told her it's not about that and how frustrated I am that they never hold her responsible for anything. Yet I and my middle sister were held to extremely high standards when we were kids. They continued to tell me to drop it and told me I couldn't have the phone back because it's in their house. Every time I bring this subject up, they tell me I'm immature, to drop the subject, and to stop getting so upset. I honestly don't feel like I'm being unreasonable by expecting her to walk him on weekends, but maybe I'm just crazy like they are treating me. Thoughts? Wow, up! It sounds like you're stuck in a sitcom episode where the responsible sibling is trying to train the younger one to take care of the family dog and chaos ensues. On a serious note, it's understandable that you feel frustrated given the agreement you had with your sister about walking the dog in exchange for the phone. It's important to communicate your feelings with your family in a calm and assertive manner. While it's understandable that your sister may have other responsibilities, it's also important for her to uphold her end of the deal. Maybe try having a heart-to-heart talk with your parents and sister to come to a fair resolution. Ultimately, setting clear boundaries and expectations can help alleviate any misunderstandings. Remember, it's all about finding a balance and working together as a team. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.